This is Special Agent Sean Keyes, Regional Director of the Otherworldly Lifeform Task Force. The date is February 23rd, 1996. After accepting this position, the team felt it would be a good idea to start recording my general thoughts for posterity. So, few people have been exposed to the kind of things I'll be seeing, and to be honest, I'm not sure if that's exciting or terrifying. Regardless, now that I've been fully debriefed, I can get to work investigating this fascinating species. Director Peter Keyes, my father, was part of the Owlf in 1987 when first contact was made with the Predator by a team of highly trained Special Forces soldiers in South America. And the Predator was disabled by the last surviving member of the team, triggering a powerful self-destruct mechanism. My father and his team interviewed the survivor extensively, while an OWLF survey team combed the blast area for any evidence. Besides some additional information on the species from the survivor, the team found very little to recover. It's been nearly 10 years since first contact, but I hold out hope that this is a sign of things to come. This is Special Agent Sean Keyes, Regional Director of the Otherworldly Lifeform Task Force. The date is February 23rd, 1996. After accepting this position, the team felt it would be a good idea to start recording my general thoughts for posterity. So, few people have been exposed to the kind of things I'll be seeing, and to be honest, I'm not sure if that's exciting or terrifying. Regardless, now that I've been fully debriefed, I can get to work investigating this fascinating species. Director Peter Keyes, my father, was part of the Owlf in 1987 when first contact was made with the Predator by a team of highly trained Special Forces soldiers in South America. And the Predator was disabled by the last surviving member of the team, triggering a powerful self-destruct mechanism. My father and his team interviewed the survivor extensively, while an OWLF survey team combed the blast area for any evidence. Besides some additional information on the species from the survivor, the team found very little to recover. It's been nearly 10 years since first contact, but I hold out hope that this is a sign of things to come. This is Special Agent Sean Keyes, Regional Director of the Otherworldly Lifeform Task Force. The date is February 23rd, February 12th, 1997. The team here has spent the last few years working on countermeasures and other methods for hunting the hunters. If we can get the jump on one of these bastards and catch it alive, the world would change forever. It's strange that nothing has ever been recovered from a predator encounter. No body, limb, even a finger has ever been found, although this isn't entirely surprising. The predator is perfectly designed for covert hunting. I mean, we can't see it because it employs advanced light-bending technology that renders it effectively invisible. However, it can see us perfectly through active infrared scanning. I mean, we're betrayed by our own natural body heat. Fortunately, the infrared isn't too advanced. Dutch Schaefer was able to evade the predator's sight by covering himself in cool mud. So this led the team to develop a bodysuit that similarly masks the wearer's infrared signature. And We're still working on ways to counteract the cloaking system, but recent efforts have been encouraging. July 2nd, 1997. It's happening. We've gotten word that a crime scene in Los Angeles reportedly contains hanged, skinned bodies. LA's also experiencing a record heat wave, which correlates the data suggesting that ambient heat is a factor when predators choose their hunting grounds. Now, I'm convinced that we're experiencing a new encounter. The field team boarded a plane hours ago and should be on site before the end of the day. To maintain secrecy, my father and the Owlf agents are going undercover as DEA agents investigating drug trafficking in Los Angeles. Our intent is to capture the city hunter alive. Now, with this goal in mind, we've outfitted the team with infrared suits, nitrogen-based freezing mechanisms, and a broad surveillance package to monitor as much of the city as we can. I shouldn't get my hopes up, but this still could be some kind of, run-of-the-mill homicidal maniac, but I wouldn't put money on it. Until our team receives confirmation, we're holding back to prep the lab for receiving. The next few days should be interesting. July 8th, 1997. I just received positive confirmation from the LA team. There is an active predator and its hunting ground is downtown Los Angeles. I still haven't fully processed that this is actually happening, but I need to, and fast. The surveillance team has been tracking its movements, developing a consistent pattern for how the alien hunts. The rest of the team has set a trap at a slaughterhouse in the warehouse district where the predator's been feeding. A helpful bit of information that confirms the hunting is solely for sport and not nutrition. The plan is to deploy countermeasures, then covertly assault a predator using the heat-dampening suits. It's a risky gambit, but with such a limited timetable, we have to take opportunity when we can. I think it's the best thing we just head to LA and establish a mobile lab so we can be ready the second predator's captured. If this goes to plan, we'll be involved in one of the most momentous moments in human history. July 10th, 1997. It's been several days since the LA encounter. The director of the Owlf, Peter Jacob Keyes, my father, was killed in the line of duty attempting to capture a predator codenamed City Hunter. I was in Los Angeles that night. I was prepping the mobile lab for capture, only to receive a panicked message from a survivor of the raid. The City Hunter was more prepared than we had thought. Managed to kill most of the team inside the slaughterhouse, including my father. It's a dark day for the Owlf. We failed to give mankind proof we're not alone in the universe while simultaneously letting a threat to our species slip through our grasp. But we have to move forward. While we did fail to capture the City Hunter, we collected an impressive amount of data on it. Most significantly, an account from Detective Lieutenant Michael Harrigan, who supposedly killed the City Hunter with one of its own weapons. In his statement, he reported that shortly after the City Hunter expired, a host of older aliens appeared. And they spared Harrington, allowing him to leave. Taking the City Hunter's body with them, they launched their spaceship into the night sky. We retraced Harrigan's steps based on his testimony. And while battling the City Hunter must have had its share of collateral damage, there was little evidence that could be differentiated from the normal gang violence found in Los Angeles. However, in a rather nondescript alley, we did find something that, while not worth the price that we paid, will pave the way to making our sacrifices not in vain. It was blood. The undeniably extraterrestrial bioluminescent green blood of the predator. And this, in and of itself, was a remarkable find, but it the end of the blood trail was the city hunter's arm. I immediately ordered for the alley to be quarantined should someone wander onto the fine, but I was too late. Somebody was already there. I tried to warn the stranger off with our cover story, but he just laughed from inside the shadows. I reached for my sidearm, but then the stranger lit a cigar, and in the sudden bloom of light, I recognized the face of Major Alan Dutch Schaefer. He was older, and he was thinner than the photos we'd had of him, but it was him. OWLF agents swarmed into the alley, but Dutch didn't resist. Did he mean to get caught? Or did his curiosity get the better of him? It's hard to say. The last known whereabouts of Major Schaefer were in OWLF custody shortly after having been interviewed by my father, then Special Agent Peter Keyes, shortly after the Valverde incident. The last time I heard of Dutch was when he vanished from OWLF custody after my father had questioned him concerning the events in Valverde. But here he was, in the same place as another predator attack. In the debriefing, he tells me everything, how he was good friends with my father, and how he'd been unofficially let go to help hunt down and find these creatures. They've secretly been keeping tabs with each other over the last few years, sharing discoveries and leads to different predator encounters in the attempts to stop this threat. After seeing the signs, he too showed up in LA to help track down the city hunter, but limited resources kept him from getting here in time to do anything. July 11th, 1997. Dutch has been surprisingly helpful to our efforts. He knew my father, and he was sympathetic about his death. He offered to help us in exchange for funding and a team. Dutch would be our on-site agent for any alien incursion. And when he says he knows them and how they hunt, I believe him. If Dutch could start bringing back bodies, technology, even just first-hand accounts, we could make huge advancements. But before he left, Dutch brought out what I'd seen briefly in the alley. It was a collapsible spear, the same one the city hunter used against Harrington. He wanted to keep it as a down payment. While advanced, the spear was relatively rudimentary. I was reluctant to let it go, but it seemed like a good faith investment, though I doubt I could have stopped him anyway. The good news is that Dutch gave us a fully functioning alien helmet. Easily the better part of the bargain, besides the wealth of knowledge that the helmet and arm would bring us alone would change the course of history. My father's passing has, it's been difficult. But everything was finally coming together. It seems now that both Dutch and I are in this together. I don't know. It makes for a strange kind of closure, I guess. September 21st, 1997. My father's associate and close friend, Agent Adam Garber, has been chosen to head up OWLF operations, and he's chosen me to help him directly with research and operational efforts. We managed to secure a massive extension to our funding after we presented the helmet and severed predator arm. And after discussing it with Garber, I convinced him to keep Dutch and his crew off the record as much as possible, so Dutch can do so much more working alongside us than he ever could working for us officially. Appropriated funds for Dutch and his team have been marked as cleaning services. Studying the arm has revealed so much about the predator physiology, and we are just now scratching the surface of what this helmet can do. There's also a damaged computer attached to the wrist, which must have been destroyed by whatever severed the arm. It'll be a slow process, deconstructing, analyzing, reverse engineering the alien technology, but every discovery will be monumental as we learn more and more from a species so much more advanced than our own. December 1st, 1997. We ran extensive genetic tests on the arm, the results of which could lead to huge medical breakthroughs. It also gave us clues to the atmospheric makeup of their homeworld and how viable it would be to sustain human life, should we ever find a way to get there. And judging by the elasticity of the skin, we think that the city hunter was a juvenile of the species. And this would line up with Detective Harrigan's account of the LA encounter. And with that in mind, one could theorize that its hunt may have been an initiation into adulthood. Carbon dating of the bone structure puts the city hunter's age at a minimum of 300 years, which draws into question the lifespan of a predator. If our assumptions are correct, we could be talking upwards of 1,000 years, possibly more. I mean, the mask is like a mundane utilitarian item to the predator, but the technology involved is staggering. Aside from the respiratory functions, the visor built into the mask is capable of displaying multiple visual frequencies. I mean, this explains how the city hunter found and killed the Owlf team in the slaughterhouse. I mean, we assumed that they only had access to infrared, but we were clearly wrong. What still confuses me, though, is how, with such extraordinary technology, the predators express a seemingly tribal culture. They have such a strong focus on honor, trophies, worthy opponents. I mean, things we've left behind as our own species has developed. I mean, is it possible that these technological advances were not developed by the predator species, but taken from another? March 12th, 1998. We've had our first strong lead since the LA encounter. At 2 a.m., a Special Forces group in Cambodia went MIA. The OWLF was alerted about the missing soldiers when skinned bodies was flagged in an update to military intelligence. We dispatched Dutch and his crew to the location within hours. Our research suggests that predator hunting grounds are active for roughly a week, and then we assume they return to their home world. But what's worrying is that our rate of detection seems to be escalating. I mean, either we're finding more predators or they're sending more. And this is exciting, but it's also worrying. If the number of predator events is increasing, we will inevitably cross a threshold where there are too many to handle. Dutch's team is highly effective at dealing with the menace as it is now, but unless we develop an advantage, humanity isn't prepared to face predator invasion. March 19th, 1999, Dutch's team managed to secure an intact piece of the predator weaponry. They tracked and killed the predator while somehow snagging its shoulder cannon before a group of elders showed up for the body exactly as it happened in LA. The elders either didn't know or didn't care that Dutch stole the gun, but goddamn, I'm glad we managed to keep it. I have the team running preliminary tests on composition and rudimentary functionality, and I'd like to get those nailed down before anyone thinks about attempting to fire it. And based on how Dutch describes it, there was a preternatural connection between the weapon and the predator itself, which would imply advanced biometric controls. Alternatively, there could be a more direct connection with the mask. I don't know. I mean, there's so many possibilities, but only time and rigorous testing will tell. What's of paramount importance is that we don't blow ourselves up along the way. It's April 4th, 2001, and while I've had basic training, I usually stay away from field duty. However, it seemed prudent to have first-hand knowledge of the predators. And as Dutch continues to prove himself as an expert tracker, well, I was guaranteed a sighting if I went on the next mission. I opted out of arming myself, as previous accounts describe predators sparing the unarmed. I guess killing the defenseless must be seen as dishonorable. After infiltration, we quickly walked into a guerrilla ambush. And at this particular moment, I regretted my decision to go unarmed, but I kept my head down while Dutch and his team did their work. And after the dust settled, we heard a deafening roar. And in the clearing stood a massive predator. It had no mask. It was staring Dutch down in complete silence. After what seemed like minutes, it let out another roar, and it charged us. And as it was closing in, the predator threw a knife that missed Dutch, but it grazed my arm. And unfazed, Dutch grabbed a spear from his back, and he thrust it into the predator's chest. But the spear must have missed any vital organs, as the predator continued to fight Dutch before escaping into the jungle. And minutes later, we felt the ground rumble as a spacecraft lifted into the air and then left the planet entirely. And while I paid for it in physical trauma, I'm glad to have seen it in person. I can't say I'm disappointed to see what I saw. October 27th, 2004. We have officially secured a predator's body. Granted, it's pretty shot up, but it'll give us a wealth of information on their biology. I considered asking Dutch's team to look into less damaging methods of subduing the predator, but still Dutch and his team somehow achieved body exfiltration before it was intercepted or destroyed. So, while examinations of the body are ongoing, we're running parallel tests on the plasma caster weapon. No attempts at firing had been made, as we are still trying to figure it out, and whether or not it's functional. My hope is we can obtain more of these weapons for comparison, which would hopefully lead to replicating the technology. Having the weapon of our enemy would dramatically increase our odds in an all-out conflict. July 8th, 2007. Today is the 10th anniversary of my father's death in Los Angeles. Because of his contributions to the Owlf, the very building I'm sitting in was named in his honor. Nothing stood in the way of his drive, his passion, and his desire to learn the secrets of the universe. With everything we've accomplished since his death, I'd like to think he'd be proud. And the best way to honor him now is to make sure his legacy lives on. Our team will continue to make history in the name of Peter Keyes. March 10th, 2008. The team is pretty shaken. On our last mission, Dutch's crew was killed. We dispatched his team to a hunting ground near a small village, but the entire village was empty. Investigating the scene revealed a fresh human skull and spine impaled and dangling on a predator's spear at the center of the village. And that's when all hell broke loose. The team could find no target, as one by one they were picked off. Dutch got the survivors into cover and offered himself up as a challenge as he drew his own spear. And within seconds, he stood face to face with a very unique predator. He described its armor as far more ornate, almost Egyptian in its regal design. Physically, it was slimmer, yet far more deadly than any previously encountered predator. I mean, based on his description, I'm confident that what he encountered was the female of the species. I mean, our assumption has been that all known predators have been male, though up until now it was mostly an informed guess. Dutch was ambushed. He was pinned to a wall by the female's net launcher, and he observed the predator walk toward him and then activate her shoulder cannon, which quickly shot every member of his team with astonishing precision. And as the razor netting cut into his face, blood apparently ran into his eyes, and Dutch says he only barely saw the predator cloak and disappear into the jungle. Given the heavy casualties, Dutch's severe injuries, it's unlikely we'll be sending teams out for some time. I fear we've kicked the hornet's nest on this one, and well, now the queen is pissed. November 17th, 2008. For some time now, the medical team has been experimenting with technology devised from the Predator medical kit. Clearly predicting injury on their hunts, predators carry a small host of advanced medical devices. Now, while configured for predator physiology, the foundational technology is surprisingly universal, though nowhere near ready for human testing until March of this year. Dutch returned from a hunting ground with severe injuries after a confrontation with the predator female. The consensus was that he wouldn't survive, but with Dutch's consent, we used a host of experimental options to stabilize his condition, including a serum containing predator blood cells augmented with human DNA. Now, one of the factors that contributes to the predator's long lifespan is their ability to regenerate tissue, and our hope is that this could be altered to identify human tissue as its own and repair it accordingly. So far, the serum has accelerated expected convalescence. What a man of Dutch's age should be able to heal in a year occurred in under 3 months. He will remain in quarantine and the side effects of the serum can be identified. Given how severe his injuries were, it's a small price to pay, though at some point we'll need to discuss sterilization with Major Schaefer. As if this affects his DNA, we can't risk that change disseminating into the gene pool. It's May 24th, 2010, and things have been alarmingly calm, which is making me nervous. A short time after Dutch's brush with death, we had an energy surge that only affected the predator equipment. We have no idea what caused the surge and can't tell if it damaged anything, but it was definitely some sort of localized anomaly. Granted, we've collected quite the assortment of predator tech, but the possibility of losing even a few pieces is terrifying. I'm worried that this has something to do with the emergence of the predator female. Are they preparing for something? I doubt they've decided to leave Earth alone. Either way, we're in a holding pattern until the next encounter, but with this predator drought, we may be out of luck. March 3rd, 2015. With predator encounters dwindling, our funding has been adjusted accordingly. I know the other intelligence branches have been eager to get our section closed, as they're not privy to what exactly we've been doing. And they know we're in research and development, but we haven't produced any weaponry or technology that's ready for deployment, which was a major incentive for getting the Owlf established. As far as they know, we're just a bunch of UFO lunatics chasing conspiracy theories. The technology that we've recovered would suffice, but there's so much more to what we do than just harvesting weapons for conventional warfare. Regardless. hopeless. I mean, it seems we'll have to bite the bullet and do what we need to do to defend humanity against the predator threat. If we throw the government some of our lesser breakthroughs, maybe that will keep the wolf from the door. Either way, we'll need a live specimen to make further significant strides. It seems that every encounter with Dutch leads to a dead predator and broken gear, and that's only if another band of predators doesn't show up and take the body. Long story short, something needs to start happening soon, or the OWLF may have to shutter. Final entry, August 29th, 2016. It's official. They're abolishing the OWLF. In my opinion, it was a certain central agency that stuck the final knife in our back. But that's not relevant anymore. A group of private contractors pitched a task force to replace us, and it was approved. Because we blazed a trail of discovery, they were able to swoop in and overpromise without putting in any of the legwork. Because of their prior weapon development experience and the guarantee of a predator within 1 year, they were swiftly greenlit. Many of our other agents, myself included, were given jobs on this new Project Stargazer. Since this is no longer the OWLF, I suppose I don't need to record these anymore. It's not like anyone will hear them. Research department's being cataloged and classified for storage. Still, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry, Dad. I tried to keep it going. I really did. I tried to find a way to keep this from happening to anyone else. But it was too much. Project Stargazer is not what you built. But I will make sure I bring your vision with me. Fortunately, Dutch managed to stay out of our official works, but I'm sure I'll be hearing from him soon.
It's September 12th, 1987. My name is Major Alan Schaefer, also known as Dutch, U.S. Army veteran, Special Ops Commander, and the only survivor of the Valverde incident. These tapes are my personal testimony. Insurance. Should anything happen to me, what I found won't be lost. My team was brought in to rescue a Guatemala cabinet minister and his aide, who had been captured by guerrilla forces in Valverde. We located the downed helicopter, and the skinned bodies of those aboard hung in nearby trees, seemingly at the hands of guerrilla fighters. After assaulting their camp, it became clear that the mission was a setup. American intelligence had sent us to retrieve the captured agents who had been on recon for future military action. But none of that matters, because while we were clearing out the guerrillas, something was hunting us. An invisible killer tracked us as we made our way to the extraction point. In 24 hours, it wiped out my entire team. Rick Hawkins, Blaine Cooper, Mac Elliott, Billy Soul, Jorge Ramirez, and Al Dillon. The best soldiers I've ever known. Men I trusted with my life were butchered like animals. It was a nightmare. We walked in with guns, but it had perfect camouflage, advanced weaponry, and could see heat. It was strong and smart, a pitiless hunter. I waited, I watched, and when I understood it, when I saw how it hunted, I killed it. As it lay dying, in a final fuck you, it activated an explosive device. I barely escaped that blast. My radiation sickness and the crater of the explosion are the only evidence it ever was here. I've given my official statement to Agent Peter Keyes of the OWLF, But it's become clear I needed to investigate Valverde myself. Keyes was thorough, but he asked all the wrong questions. I mean, we have proof of alien life, but that life sees us as game. It's an alien whose first contact with humanity was to hunt us for sport. All Keyes cared about was the technology lost in the explosion. He can see the jungle for the trees. I see the threat. He sees the opportunity. Spies are all the same. I mean, we aren't people to them. We are assets. How many soldiers would he feed to those monsters just for a chance to steal from them or to learn from them? The government can't be trusted. So I'll have to do this on my own. I'm cutting my treatment short and going off the grid. I will make my way back to South America to Valverde. I was told that there were stories about demons who make trophies of man. I'd like to hear those stories. April 8th, 1991. I'm not dead yet. I'll admit, I regret not curing my radiation sickness before I left. It made leaving the country difficult. I cashed in a few favors, took one too many off-the-book flights in rusted-out buckets, but I made it back to Valverde. The area was on lockdown, sealed by American intelligence for study. The complex centered on a crater from the alien self-destruction. I found the scientists slumming in a local bar. A few drinks, a couple of threads later, he was ready to talk. It wasn't much, barely anything I didn't already know. The blast emitted a form of radiation they'd never seen before. Some believed it was extraterrestrial, some didn't. Either they're not too bright, or there's nothing to find. I decided to let them keep searching in vain. It kept them busy and off my trail. I've been touring villages and small towns using the cover of an author writing about South American folklore. I don't know if any of them bought in, but they took my money and told their stories. The closer they were to the jungle, the more stories of devils in the trees. Some were bullshit, made up on the spot, but some carried consistencies that I couldn't ignore. Whatever it was, the demons who make trophies of man, the devil of the trees, or the skull taker, the stories always began on the hottest summer that they could remember. In the summer of 1987, Valverde nearly broke its all-time high in temperatures. They love the heat. It must remind them of home. Everything else confirmed the truth of the stories. Proud warriors skinned and hanged, skulls and spines ripped from their bodies. Maybe it was obvious from the beginning, but it wasn't until I heard the stories that I truly accepted the purpose of these mutilations. I mean, they're taking trophies. They travel impassable distances to hunt us, skin us, and mount us over some alien fireplace on another world. It would be disgusting if it weren't so familiar. Where do I go now? It's been on my mind all year. The takeaway from all this intel is that they've been doing this for decades, centuries maybe. They're coming back, and I need to be there when they do. June 27th, 1992. It's hard to remember that the most important part of an operation is patience. You can plan the perfect op, but you can't account for everything. If shit goes south, there's nothing to do but to adapt and finish the mission. Sometimes you just get lucky. I was in the dock, 10 clicks downriver from the Valverde border, figuring out my next move. I was ready to pack it in. I thought that I learned everything that I could, that there was nothing left for me to find. The Owlf had abandoned the detonation site a year ago, and I thought that they already shipped back to America. That's when I saw Agent Peter Keyes tie his skiff to the dock. I mean, I haven't seen Keyes since I gave my official statement to him. It was impossible, but there he was with three of his buddies. All agents. I mean, the clean, tidy outfits give them away all the time. I mean, they don't want to get down in the dirt, you see. That's what they pay soldiers to do. Keyes walked up, looked right at me, and shook my hand. I mean, with the radiation sickness, I've lost a lot of weight, so I thought that he maybe would not recognize me. But then he greeted me like we were old pals. Keyes is a good spy, saying nothing, implying everything. We spent the next few hours trading war stories at the bar. If you had heard us, you would never have suspected we were trading intel on an alien manhunter. His cover was that they have been looking for a serial killer, a sadist who has been operating in the area for years, hunting people like animals and then skinning them alive. Keyes wanted to talk about the monster, so it all came out in the cover story. In many ways, they were just a few steps behind, surveying villages for information, locating witnesses. He did confirm one thing that I only considered. He told me how the killer chose his victims. They were always armed. A rifle, a pistol, a knife in the boot. He wasn't taking kids or random villages. He wanted a challenge. Whatever it was a hunter. And it killed for sport. I wish they were here for a military action, recon for an invasion. But the truth was so much worse. We are prey, animals, fit only to be hunted. Keyes and his buddies paid the tab and mine, but before he left, he winked at me and he said, "Stay out of the jungle. That's where he gets you." I tracked Keyes and his team for weeks, but they didn't learn anything new. Maybe they knew that I was there, maybe they didn't, I don't know. I've risked enough for now. I think it's time to disappear. Keep my ear to the ground. Be patient. March 3rd, 1996, Zaire. I thought I could wait. I thought that I could hold back and make my move at the right time. I couldn't. Fuck. I had to find them. I needed to hunt it or let it hunt me. I joined up with any private military company that was headed into the hot zone. I pulled every string, cashed out every favor just to follow the sweat and the death that attracted the demon. I eventually put together a team myself. Lost soldiers and haunted men, willing to fight and to die wherever I led them. They thought that I was a legend, and I let them believe that. I'm quiet and good in what I do. They needed them to see me as a legend, so that they could take them to die in a sweltering jungle. We went on more missions than I can remember. We didn't fire until we were fired at. They thought that it was my code. It wasn't. I was waiting and watching. Our last mission was an evac op in the Congo. A private munition base had gone dark. When we arrived, they'd been dead for days. Bodies strung up on floodlights around the base, all of them skinned, some missing skulls and spines. We secured the site and waited for backup to arrive. In the heat of the day, I stared into the waves of heat coming off the concrete, thinking that any minute they might come alive as the invisible killer. And then they did. I didn't wait. I unloaded every round I had. Trusting me, my team fired in the same direction. It wasn't the first time I'd done it, but this time I knew what I was looking for. It was so fast, we couldn't hit it. We panicked, and stray rounds struck the crate of RPGs. And that explosion hit other munitions that exploded. By the time the smoke cleared, the demon was dead, but so were all my men. I took samples of its blood, pieces of its anatomy, and what tech that I could salvage. And then I burned everything. Then it disappeared. I never checked in with HQ. As far as I know, I was counted among the dead. October 12, 1997, Los Angeles. I needed to come back to the States. It wasn't impossible to sneak contraband through customs, but I wasn't willing to risk what I found in a cargo falling into the wrong hands. Instead, I traveled to Mexico aboard a cargo ship bound for the port of Altamira. From there, I made my way to Tijuana, and I bunkered down. I had tangible proof of extraterrestrial life in my possession, but no idea what to do with it. I'm not a scientist. I did a soldier's duty and secured valuable intel. This was out of my pay grade. I kept an eye on the news. Los Angeles was having a record-breaking heat wave and a gang war on the streets. It was perfect. I could feel it in my bones. I'd been tracking them for so long, I could think like them. I could smell the prey. I could see the hunting ground. I had to get to LA. Crossing back into the States from Tijuana wasn't that difficult, but by the time that I'd reached the city, it was already over. Like Valverde, the OWLF only found crumbs. What I'd hoped might be an alien ship turned out to be only a launching site. I wanted it too much, and I got sloppy. I breached the OWLF's quarantine and was captured. I'd hoped to be bailed out by Agent Keys, but he died. With Keys gone, the OWLF was leaderless and disorganized. I was interrogated, but I negotiated my release by bartering the alien materials that I'd recovered from the Congo. During the negotiations, it was clear how little they knew. They needed someone who understood the threat, so I offered to work with the OWLF as a consulting advisor. They had the funding, the technology that I needed to continue my hunt. I wouldn't work for them, but I would work with them. There will be a weapon that I can use to hunt down these predators as they move to fresh ground. It's only a matter of time until they see us as a real threat. When the prey can fight back, it's no longer a hunt. It is war. March 3rd, 2008. We've gotten good at killing predators. Every time we find one, we come back with more tech, more research, and the OWLF's funding goes up. Together, we have gotten stronger and more efficient. For a time, the aliens were surprisingly predictable. They had no idea that we knew so much about them. But that began to change. They sent better hunters every time. They're beginning to see us as a threat. Or we've become a more worthy prize. Maybe both. We know this because our last encounter was special. We weren't certain if they had any gender to speak of, but that changed when we came into contact with the female. She was smarter and deadlier. She didn't fuck around like the males did. She was direct, ruthless, and skilled. I was in Laos when we first came into contact with her. It was Valverde all over again. Her ambush wiped out my entire team. Only this time, she got me. In a small village, I lost track of her, just long enough for her to pin me with a razor net. Pinned against the wall, razors cutting into my face. I've been fighting for so long, I was ready to die. I should be dead. Instead of making the kill, she cloaked and vanished into the jungle. The net relaxed, and I escaped with my life, and a scar to remember her by. She spared me. Only me. Like she knew who I was. I returned to the exfil. My first failed mission in a long time. Are we going about this wrong? I mean, we've learned so much. But in doing so, have we made ourselves a bigger target? I can't stop thinking about something Napoleon said. You must not fight too often with one enemy, or you will teach them all your art of war. I started this believing that we were learning how to hunt them, or maybe she let me live to just be hunted another day. We were teaching them how to hunt us. January 13th, 2019. I knew that the Predator's deployment to Earth would make it impossible to keep all of this a secret. Sooner or later, there would be another player on the board. I'd hoped that it would be another agency, one that understood and respected the threat. Project Stargazer. Our initial intelligence on Stargazer was that they were capable, funded, but inexperienced. But they were smart. They took the Owlf's funding and got it shut down. Everyone we could identify in their group was a disavowed member of another agency, including the Owlf. Lacking strong leadership and a clear directive, they were sloppy and arrogant. They were aware of the Predator's threat, and while they had many of the pieces, they struggled to see the bigger picture. Stargazer was so far behind that we didn't see them as a threat until the event in Mexico. The recovered Predator escape pod was an extraordinary find for Stargazer, but the death toll was a heavy price to pay for taking a Predator captive. My task force has many directives, but one of the most primary is we do not take captives. Retrieve technology, corpses, and other intelligence. But there's no value in a live predator, only liability. The enemy does not want peace. The enemy does not negotiate. Its only drive on Earth is to hunt. What we might learn from a captive predator would never be worth the risk to our people. Stargazer didn't learn from their mistakes, and the technology they've recovered has only made them cocky. When the government cut ties to the agency, it should have shuttered their project permanently, but they only shifted their goals. Guerrilla factions and private military companies are being contracted by Stargazer to set out bases and equipment in locations that we have identified as ideal hunting grounds. We believe that the former intelligence project is setting itself up to be a fully independent dealer of otherworldly arms. This is the worst-case scenario. Hostile forces will use those weapons on their enemies, and they will use them on us. All the while, the true enemy stalks us unseen. It's a distraction mankind can't afford. Stargazer would have to be dealt with. 2025. It's hard to believe that I'm still here recording this. I probably shouldn't be smoking in the med bay, but fuck it, it's my birthday, for Christ's sakes. I turned 78 today, but I'm out there hunting. I should be retired. I should be doing anything but this. My life shouldn't be possible. But the very thing that I hunt, that hunts me, is what's keeping me alive. As we began to understand the Predator's technology, we started to use it. A fight with a Predator female went bad, and I was critically wounded. Dying, I agreed to experimentation. it worked. It worked so well that the cells in my body stopped aging. Pushing 80 now, I'm fighting like a man in his 40s. It's not the only experiment that I've been part of. I'm deadlier now than I was in Valverde. The Owlf has been fully reinstated. It's grown larger than ever before. We saved John Keyes from Stargazer. His father was Peter Keyes. I suppose you could say that he was a very dear acquaintance. His son is a gifted scientist. I worry about the future. The Earth is seeing unprecedented rise in heat and war. As the climate changes and the temperatures go up, more and more countries are becoming hunting grounds. We have killed so many of their kind, but they only send more. The number of events that we have witnessed has increased threefold in 10 years. We have made an impression on them, but not like we had hoped. We wanted to show them that we weren't prey, to deter them from ever sending another hunter to our world. We sent a warning, but they took it as a challenge. I fear we have made things worse. If the predators ever decide that we've grown too bold, I have no doubt that they could burn the Earth and all of humanity with it. My only hope is that while they waste their time on sport, we can rise up together and stand against them as a species. Until then, we keep moving, we keep hunting, and we keep our eyes open.